Hey everyone. Sorry, it's been a while since I've done a video. Just March has been a very crazy month, but I still have a lot of things coming and going. Um, figures in and out, sporting things like that. But today, what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you something. So I'm a big Star Wars fan, always been since I was a kid. When A New Hope came out, and out of all the things over the years the one thing I love about Star Wars is my favorite vehicle of all time is the Imperial TIE Fighter and all of its variants that they produced over the years. At one time, I had at least a representative sample of just about every TIE Fighter that had been out at that time. And especially my pride and joy was I had a 181st TIE Interceptor. It's the one with the red stripes and from the Rogue Squadron comics and the Baronfell action figures, stuff like that. Well, a few years back, I had to sell everything. I think I've told that story before, just because things got to the point where it's either do I take care, feed my family, or sit on this this junk I've been storing for a while. And so I did. So I was one of my gross to let go all that stuff. And so about last year, sometime, I decided, well, I'll try to see if I can find start finding some replacements for that, and then so of course I'm looking at eBay, Macari, local stores, things like that, online stores, stuff like that. But the at this point, those are all very expensive and way more money than I'm willing to pay for it. Except for there's one Thai variant that has come out over the time that is at time of recording is very plentiful. And you can get them at decent prices, and that is the Thai Striker Rogue from Rogue One, which is this one right here. I like the movie Rogue One. It was very great. I love it. Love the TIE Striker. Love the aesthetic. Love the idea behind it. It was a very well thought out idea behind why it would look that way and what its purpose is. So I fell in love with the TIE Striker. I found one, I think off of Macari around the time. It was about $40 still in the box. Sealed in the box. I was able to get that. And then I found, over time, I found some loose ones and another in the box one for a very low price. And so you could get these anywhere between 20, 40. I think maybe as the supplies now starting to drop a little bit, it's starting to creep up there. So over time, what I did, over a short amount of time, I actually wound up with about 5 of these things. So I'm almost like I'm building a TIE Striker squadron. But one of the issues with it, I want to bring this up so you can see it real close, is is that with the Rogue One stuff, Hasbro was really big about trying to integrate other brand products into the line, which is smart of them to do that. And one of the things they built a play feature into a lot of their vehicles and role play accessories. They brought Nerf into the game. So for the TIE Striker, what they did is underneath the fuselage, they actually built a working Nerf gun. You put a dart in the barrel, you press it down, it cocks it, press a button on the side, it fires a Nerf dart. And they came with green Nerf darts, so some kind of mimic the bolts, and then which was cool. But then underneath each wing, they had mounted a hard point to hold extra Nerf darts, which is great, which is a great idea. It's great playability for kids. I love it. But of course, I'm a purist, so I don't display mine with the Nerf darts in it because I think it looks silly for display purposes. But so I had these, so I still had these hard points hanging underneath the wings that were empty. And you could take them off. It's very easy. There's a little screw for each one. You take it off. But again, to think, what if I want to like one day, resell these things? And a lot of people like to get them, especially if it's a loose vehicle, because I don't keep things in boxes. They want it as close to how it came out of that box as possible. And if I unscrewed it, then it would just kind of leave things everywhere, or I'd have to try to find it, which could be a pain. So I began to think, within the context of Star Wars lore, what could I do? What could I use these for? And then I thought about it, like, well, why don't, if I can find somebody that can 3D print missiles, because in the Star Wars universe, there's the concept of concussion missiles that they use them for anti-ship stuff, and there's a few toys that come out with they come out with the missile launchers on it, stuff like that. And even in the new Andor season, they have a TIE fighter. I believe it's going to be the TIE Avenger that has a rack of missile launchers on it. So it's like, well, that'd be cool, but I want something for to go against capital ships. And I'll kind of explain how it fits in the lore here. And so I had a buddy of mine, I contacted him and said, hey, he does 3D printing. Said, hey, could you 3D print some sort of like sci-fi looking missile that would fit into these hard points? And so he kind of pulled up a hard point. He kind of showed me a couple of pictures of some files that they could do. And I brought him a TIE Striker out of my collection over there because I had someone I could give him for a few days. That way he can test fit it and look. And this is what he came up with: is these little missiles. And you can see compare side by side with a with a 3 3/4 Star Wars action figure, because that's what fits in there. Is we have these missiles here, and did a really good job. We kind of had to communicate back and forth on the design and the color specs and stuff like that, because he was able to print them all with the color, with the different filaments. It would just switch back and forth on the color, and fins and all that stuff. And this points are really sharp. They're dangerously sharp, not recommended for children, but our radios. So I got it home, and so I've got these nice little missiles that fit underneath into the hard points of the TIE Striker. You can see there's the big cannon for the Nerf gun on there. And so kind of the idea of the lore is that the TIE Striker is an air superiority TIE fighter. It's mainly meant to work in atmosphere, which is why the wings are set up that way. But occasionally, but it does have the capability to go into orbit and be used in space. And so, and they're also put on planets that are they're kind of on the rim where you don't get full support. So I had this idea that you have a squadron of TIE Strikers on this planet, and one of the main things they have to do is they have to deal with pirates and smugglers. And so sometimes it takes a little bit more. Normally you would have a TIE bomber that can launch concussion missiles or drop bombs and stuff like that, but they don't have that. They're kind of a one-stop shop. So I figured we have these concussion missiles that they can fire. That's kind of anti-ship missiles that can take out some larger ships in force. And so so that was kind of the concept and the idea behind that, and it came out really good. So I wound up with 20 of them, and I'm going to do this. I want to switch. StreamYard has this thing where if you pay them extra money, they'll let you have a second camera. But I think I found a way to get around there. I want to go to a handheld camera here real quick. There we go. It's my workbench. It's a big mess. So here's the missiles on there. And then there's my TIE Striker with that. So you can see it looks really good, with the wings down. They sit underneath there. You can't really see them. They're kind of in the back, so a ship wouldn't see them too well. But they just look so good on there. And then, of course, you have the big Nerf cannon underneath. And we're actually working on a design for maybe like a little plug insert that just like clips into that huge hole in the front that you'd like maybe a targeting sensor for the missiles, or maybe like an ion cannon type deal. Something we can, if I ever decide to sell these things, I can pull the missiles off of it, put the Nerf darts back on, pull that plug out, and it's ready to go from there. So again, that's just something that very that's something that Hasbro would never do, never put together. Never anything to do it, but it's a little add-on. I love doing so. I love it's a way to enhance a vehicle or a toy without having to damage the toy or pull everything apart and put it back together again. And again, it's very simple use of 3D printing, and it didn't cost me as much, but that's because I'm working this out. If anybody's interested in some of these missiles, if you got a TIE Striker or something like that, you just let me know, and I'll put you in touch with my buddy and see if we can work something out for you. Or if you do 3D printing, I mean, there's a lot of different. So if you go to Wikipedia and look up concussion missiles for Star Wars, they got some great ideas of what's sci-fi Star Wars universe concussion missile would look like to mount that on there. And maybe I mean, there's even things you can do with you can make brackets to mount these missiles on, and put them to add them to other things like X-wings or other vehicles, that you have as well. But it's just kind of one of those outside the box things that to me just enhances, my experience and my joy of these vehicles in this model. So because I get I've got a TIE fighter pilot for each one. The ones that came with the TIE Striker, it's where they do the good sculpt, but it's a 5 POA. And I kind of really like the Legacy, where all the parts of the helmets come off and stuff like that. So every time I get a new TIE Striker, I got to kind of source a new TIE pilot for it in the Legacy one. But it's rather than something I can easily do and accomplish. So maybe eventually one day I'll get back an 181st TIE Interceptor or one of the other TIE Interceptors, or maybe they'll start dipping back into the original trilogy era stuff and start producing stuff for that. I probably believe that if Hasbro was smart, that TIE Avenger will be their next vintage collection vehicle, which I kind of don't like that, because it's a very vintage collection vehicle start out around $100 for that. So, which is a little bit more than I want to pay, but I'll probably find a way to pay for it that way, just because I really like TIE fighters, especially the variants. And then, they did the E-Wing finally, which was my favorite. I think I did a little short video on the E-Wing, which is my favorite expanding universe vehicle next to the TIE Defender, which they brought that into Rebels. So if they ever do a TIE Defender vintage collection, then I'm all around, sell kitty or something like that. But again, it's something very simple to do. Snap-on doesn't affect the product anyway. Like I said, no modification, just a little enhancement that for me makes it enjoyable, and also more importantly kind of fits into it doesn't break the lore of it. So with that, I'm going to take off. I'll see you later. Got a lot coming on, live streams coming up. I'm working on more projects. I've got some more my collection stories coming up. Got some things with some comics that I got recently. I'm going to try to track down an entire run of a certain comic and take y'all through that journey. Also, I'm getting ready to do the first video of the Skyhawk project. There's that video is the introduction, me talking about that is there. I've got a good collection of Skyhawks now. I'm still missing some key pieces in there, but I at least got enough to get the first 3 videos done. I just got to sit down and write the scripts and get the videos done. So there's more coming. So I'm not going anywhere. So keep on coming back. Again, if you liked what it was in there, if you like these missiles or you had ideas for other enhancements for other vehicles, just let me know down in the comments. If you wanted to work something out where I can get you some of those missiles, if you want some for your own collection, your own enjoyment, let me know. I can do that. Otherwise, you guys have a great day.